I have a guest joining us this morning. He's from Filer, and he's a candidate for Idaho House of Representatives. And the C-24B is open right now because of a retirement. And, one candidate decided to run for Senate, the other retired. And there's new district boundaries. So it's rural Twin Falls County, as it was before, but now includes Camas and Gooding counties. And Creighton Knight. Do you pronounce it Creighton or Creighton?
Creighton.
Okay, because there used to be a hockey player named Adam Creighton, so I think I got the
Okay.
pronunciation right. Just being a sports fan now and then does help.
Usually, the March Madness, people see my name all the time because of the Creighton University in Nebraska. So I get a little bit airplay every March, so that's always kind of nice.
But they're not as good as like Butler or uh, some of the big university up in Spokane that seems to be there every year.
That's true. It's just really neat though. Whenever I turn on the TV and I see that I'm beating another college team, so sometimes I take a picture and send it to my friends. Makes me feel good.
Wanted to mention at 7:36, we're at 35 on Magic Valley this morning on News Radio 96.1 FM, 1310 KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com. So you're a business owner. In fact, you own an apple orchard.
We do. Our family owns the Apple Barn Event Center, which is in Filer, right off of Stevens Street, and we also have a real working orchard that's attached with it. So our main line of business really is weddings and events and birthday parties, things like that. We're pretty much almost all booked up for weddings from about April through October so far this year. So it's been really nice and it's a lot of fun. We do that with the family, and you know how it is. It's always an exciting thing if you can work with your family, and we really love being able to participate and see people and help them on their wedding. The most important one of their most important days of the year. We just love and get a lot of joy out of seeing people having a really good time there at our event center.
So what's the motivation to take the plunge with the legislature?
You know, it's a great question, Bill. I've been a lifelong Republican. I've worked on campaigns. I got to thinking about it, and I don't want to age myself, but my very first campaign that I actually knocked on doors was a congressional campaign back in 1992 when I was just graduated high school. So off and on, I've worked on campaigns, love politics and everything. The reason why I started running is I, it goes back to probably last August. Things have been stirring in my heart before that, but last August, my wife and I were down in Phoenix dropping our daughter off at college. She's a freshman down there, and I was just telling my wife. I said, you know, I just don't. There's this uneasiness. There's an unsettledness in my heart, and I don't understand what it is. And she said, and my wife is. You got to know my wife. She's not a woman of many words. But all of her words are significant, and she's not super political. But she just quickly said, she goes, you know, honey. She said, everybody senses that there's something wrong. They all know there's something wrong. And the normal guardrails, the normal barriers, the normal people and organizations that we are accustomed to coming in and stepping in the gap and saying no more, those guardrails, they're gone. The people who would normally be there as the guardrails, they're gone too. And she said that, and it just all that truth just came and hit me right in my heart. And I said, baby, you've got it. That's exactly why I've been frustrated. And you remember, Bill, I mean, you're a conservative too. I mean, we've all been waiting and waiting and waiting, you know, like in Washington, D.C. or whatever. And certainly with the COVID thing, some of the COVID craziness has even hit home here in Idaho too. And so that really began my journey to begin to look into doing something. And I've always favored the state legislature and getting involved in that because it's local. You know, I mean, we Clark Hoffman's one of our neighbors down the road there in Filer, so they're accessible and they're local, and really we're more connected, I think, with our neighbors and our constituents because we live the life that our constituents, the folks we represent, live. So that really began my journey there to begin to look into what I could do to help restore some sanity and help do some good work for the folks here in Idaho.
One of the things you mentioned in the initial press release was that you'd like to see the grocery tax repealed, and I was sharing with you that I have a picture that I think was posted by Priscilla Giddings of the board where they show the votes on the latest effort to try to move that, and it did not go well. But some of the names I recognize, and I think these are people who would be willing to do it, but I think they're hesitant because their question is, okay, if we get rid of it, we've got to make a choice then. We've got to either cut spending or we've got to find something else to tax. And so I think that it's not a solid wall of people who are opposed to it. It's just that some people want to have some sort of answer first. But what would you do in that situation?
I think that's a fair question about, the impact if we were to repeal that. But what I find, and I was thinking about this just yesterday, as a matter of fact, at some time on my hands, I was sharing with you, I was traveling yesterday, and I got to thinking about it. And as conservatives and as Republicans in the Republican Party that I grew up in and believing in and the ideals, we would not really look at keeping taxes high. We would look at opportunities of where we could cut and where we could conserve. And I think that that reining in certain spending, I think, is important. And in my press release and in some of my and on my website, I talk about my concern with the Medicaid. Just the line item all by itself, not even the entirety of the Health and Human Services budget, but just the the all-in spending on Medicaid on the line item bill for 2023 is $4 billion. That by itself is the highest, the number one line item in the budget on that. And I got this off the governor's report that he gave to the legislature. Um, a close second is funding for public schools. So that's good that we have a good spending for our public schools. But there's some social spending that even outpaces that. And I was surprised when I heard that. When I heard that, I had to go look up that fact and say, well, those stats. So I think a lot of people listening out there today might be surprised to hear that. So the answer to your question is that I would first look at where we could spend or where we could save in our spending and look at that first rather than say, well, we're going to keep taxes high so that we don't have to cut spending. The Republican Party I know and love would always look for savings first and give people their money back.
A candidate here for the opposite seat, the 24A, the other day, and I asked her a question just off the top of my head. Is there anybody in currently in the legislature that you admire that you might model yourself after?
I really like Christy Zitto and I like Ron Nate. I know Ron Nate is
He's an economist like
he's
you.
an economist, yeah. So he's an economics professor and probably would have been my favorite when I was an economics major when I was in college. What I really like about them is they really bring a more of a free market and a fresh approach to the problems that we have. One of the things that I learned, you know, and I was served on a school board, a local school board here for Xavier Charter School, and so public charter school. I have public charter school board experience, and one of the things that I learned a lot working with the fine folks over there is that there's a lot of craziness that kind of comes down from the state. The funding formula is a great example. I've actually seen the funding formula because I was the treasurer of the school board, and I remember that one of the officials at our school said basically that everyone in Boise acknowledges that the funding formula is crazy and it's Byzantine, but they understand it, or they don't really understand it, but it's what they're accustomed to, and so they just kind of roll with it. And we all had a good laugh about that and kind of scratched our heads. And so I'm more of a positive thinker, like, oh hey, if something's crazy, why can't we change it? So I'm gonna be my own person, obviously, and represent the people here in our counties. But I'm if you for the folks who want someone who's not going to just accept the status quo or it's always been this way, and so therefore we need to continue it. Someone who's going to be very skeptical about government and really always trying to rewire to find a better way and find better solutions, then that's the type of legislator that I'm going to be.
We got to get to a break in about 20 seconds. We've got more coming up with Creighton Knight. Again, he's a candidate for legislative House seat 24A, B rather,
B, yeah.
B rather. Um, it's easier for most people to say it's rural Twin Falls County, it's Camas County and Gooding County, and that's how we look at it. Before we get to the break, we've got about 10 seconds. What's the contact information on the web?
Most definitely. My website is a great place to connect. It's night4idaho.com. That's KNIGHT, the number 4, idaho.com. All my handles on Facebook and Instagram are night4idaho as well. And then my email is night4idaho@gmail.com. And all those fours are the number 4.
We've got more coming up with Creighton Knight. It's 34 at 7:45. Cal Thomas and his morning commentary on the way as well. And the gun guys join us just after 8 o'clock news. Creighton Knight, our guest, he's a candidate for Idaho House of Representatives. There's a primary coming up in May, and we're just about, I think of yesterday, it would be about 90 days away from that, or 3 months out anyway. Maybe not a day count, but 3 months out. And it's 34 at 7:51 on News Radio 96.1 FM, 1310 KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com with Bill Colley. Uh, we'll have you back, obviously, because we've got 3 months to do that. But we will touch on a few other issues. I know you had some things you wanted to mention in the final minutes today.
I did, Bill. So again, if folks could, they can go to my website, the number 4 Idaho.com. They'll see, the top issues. But some of the other issues that they'd find there, but I did want to touch on is, medical freedom is still an issue here in Idaho. I can tell you, back in the first segment, you asked me one of the reasons why I wanted to run. Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to run is, as a proud Idahoan, during the COVID situation, it really bothered me that other states that are less conservative, in other words, and factually, the number of Republicans to Democrats, that ratio is a lot tighter. I would call them purple states, like Florida, like Arizona. Texas isn't a purple state, but it's red. But all these other states were taking the lead and really, really openly opposing and the federal government's mandates, which we all knew were unconstitutional. Hats off to our team in Idaho and Boise. They did join the lawsuit, but it was more like they were, if it was like a minivan of the states driving to court, Governor Little and our team were kind of in the back seat, in the way back, right? And so I'm glad they enjoined that. That was good. But my understanding of the Supreme Court ruling was that it basically returned that right back to states and localities to do that. So obviously we had our session back in the fall, and the House did its job, and they passed some protections for our workers. And then that bill is sitting in a senator's desk somewhere, because there were some senators, Republican senators, unfortunately. Thankfully, they weren't any of ours that I know of. But it's sitting in the desk somewhere in Boise right now. And I don't think a lot of people recognize that. And, instead of arguing over the vaccines, why weren't we taking the lead and doing like Ron DeSantis in Florida did, or other states did, which is making those monoclonal antibodies available for people? Why are we? And that's what I was saying in the first section too, Bill. The first segment is that, as a legislator, folks out there listening, if you want someone who takes a different look and who doesn't accept conventional wisdom. I remember the great Rush Limbaugh. We miss him, God rest his soul. Remember, he used to say that he would not go with conventional wisdom. If everybody was looking in one direction, he'd be the one guy looking in the opposite direction. Well, I learned that from Rush, and I'm kind of wired that way too. So to me, instead of government clashing with take the jab or keep your job, or medical freedom versus, looking out for your neighbor by getting vaccinated, all the different arguments that were out there, I'm, not validating that one. But instead of that, why didn't we just go for the better way, which is, hey, it's here to stay. Other governors took the lead to make those monoclonal antibodies and such available. Why didn't we just join with that? Ron DeSantis, when Biden shut him down, he went to the manufacturer in Europe and bought the stuff and said, we got money, we'll buy it, or at least he tried to. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would like to see, because it caused a lot of strife and a lot of friction amongst Idaho residents that doesn't need to be there. I mean, we have a wonderful state with beautiful people. We're used to getting along, and just small things like that, or big things like that, I guess, start to filter down, and it really turns people against each other. And we don't want that. We want people to be together. The best way to do it is, it's the 21st century. It's the year 2022. There are a lot of different treatment options, and we need to get on board with that, rather than being back there in 2 years ago and fighting over a vaccine or not.
Got about 2 minutes to go. Critical race theory, being that you've been involved in education too. Critical race theory, you'd like to see that eradicated.
Most definitely, Bill. Again, another reason why I'm running is I feel that that some of our folks in the state level either ignore it or refuse to accept the fact that it's here. But every parent listening today knows that it is a concern that we have. I'm a parent as well. My son is still in school. My daughter's in college. One of the reasons why she's in school in Arizona instead of here in Idaho is because, with our Judeo-Christian values and everything, she saw what was going on at Boise State, and she saw what was going on at other, certainly Boise State, and she just didn't really want to have to deal with that, and everything. And as a parent, and I know parents out there like us, we want our kids to have all the opportunities to stay in Idaho for all the right reasons. And so critical race theory is here, and we have to be very vigilant against it. We know that at Boise State, their funding was reduced for that last year, right? The legislature stayed over and did all and fought for the taxpayers to not fund that garbage. Well, what was it? 2 weeks ago, the president of Boise State was in front of the House committee, basically admitting that it's not. We don't call it CRT anymore, but in practice, it still is. So it's still there. So what the message is that our folks need to, or, our people deserve representatives who understand that there's a battle, and B, will be happy warriors, but will be relentless warriors, and will defend our children, defend our way of life, and do it with a smile on our face, and do it with joy in our hearts. But we'll still enjoy the battle, and we will still make sure that we defend what makes Idaho really special, which is its people and our values.
30 seconds to go again if you want to repeat some of the contact information and the web presence.
Most definitely. So our website is Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T, the number 4, Idaho.com. So knightforidaho.com. I try to keep it easy because I got to juggle between all the socials. So our Facebook and our Instagram handle is the same. It is Knight, the number 4, Idaho. And then my email, check it out. It's knightforidaho@gmail.com. So would love to connect with folks. Check it out. If you like what you see, tell your friends. If you don't like it, please contact me, and I'd love to get to know you. We can talk. So thanks for having me on, man. I sure appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll talk with Creighton again before the primary obviously arrives. That's still 3 months out. In the meantime, we've got news coming up at 8 o'clock, and then the gun guys join us for an hour. It's 35. It's 7:58 on News Radio 96.1 FM, 1310 KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com. Bill Colley on Magic Valley This Morning.